Hey, good afternoon, everybody, and I want to welcome you to the very first episode of the Irish in the Industry podcast. My name is Doug Sioka. I'm going to be hosting this undertaking, and I am fired up because I've never done anything like this before. So we're coming to you today live from Leawood, Kansas, home of a firm that I founded in 2011, Kavar Capital Partners. I'm also a 1993 graduate of the University of Notre Dame, and I've been in the wealth management business my entire career. So the goals of this podcast are threefold. Okay, number one, we're going to learn from impactful people in the field of wealth management that are also connected back to the University of Notre Dame. Number two, we want to elevate the understanding of the opportunities, the challenges, and the ever-changing landscape of the industry for the next generation of wealth managers. And number three, we want to have some fun. We want to build some goodwill. We want to swap some stories, right, that hopefully will resonate throughout the wealth management community. Look, wealth management is a blast. Like even through the tough periods like we're in right now, like what's happening with the market, what's happening with the economy. Look, there are challenges as your clients go through their own personal economic life cycles. But this business is the ultimate combination of EQ and IQ. It's the best way to cross-pollinate your personal and your professional passions. And it is now and always will be forever a relationship-based business. So there's tons of adrenaline in the industry, and I hope that it comes out in the pod. So to recap, we're here to educate, we're here to elevate, and we're here to ruminate. So let's go. So I am so excited.
I think you're done. That's it. Let's go.
That's right. We'll see you next time. And until then, go Irish. I'm so excited. We've got Mike Durbin in the house. And I mean in the house. Mike is here at my office in Leawood, Kansas. Mike is the CEO of Cetera Financial Group. Can't thank you enough for making the trip to be involved with this, Mike, on our maiden voyage. Mike's a 1990 graduate of the University of Notre Dame. So that
makes me older than you, Doug. I
just
accept
slightly,
that.
but I would say not more mature, but that's an insult, and more mature. So you got me twice there. But Mike was a student at the university back during the national championship run that hoisted up the most recent 1988 football national championship trophy. More on that as we go through the pod. But Mike, thanks so much for being here and helping us kick things off.
Doug, delighted to be here. Thank you very much for inviting me to be here. The pressure just went parabolic there, but maybe that means this is just a big blooper reel. But we'll see what happens on the other end of it.
Absolutely.
But grateful to be here, but also just very grateful for what you're doing for the profession and for the university. So delighted to be here.
Oh, it's a passion project.
And at the risk of anchoring the time a little bit, it's an important couple of weeks in Notre Dame history with the passing of Coach Holtz. Graduating 1990 means I started in the fall of '86. So my first Notre Dame football game was Coach Holtz's first Notre Dame football game, which many of you are probably historians of Notre Dame football. That was the infamous game where Notre Dame came in unranked, lost a nail biter by 1 point to Michigan. And Holtz and the team got a standing ovation by the stadium in the loss.
Unbelievable,
because it was sort of like, okay, this is a new era. It was very, very exciting. As a freshman, I'm like, is this going to be this way every Saturday? And
wow.
By gosh, it was that way most Saturdays. It was a lot of fun.
Intended, but what a way to kick things off.
Yeah.
And really makes you miss that rivalry even that much more. Because you saw some amazing football and some of the most memorable plays of amazing football. So you were there for Tim Brown, you were there for Rocket Ismail, you were obviously there for the national championship. So we're going to talk a little about Coach Holtz as we move through the pod, but that's a really cool
This is
story.
a Notre Dame football podcast, right?
Well, we'll see if they endorse. No. By two non-athletes, yes, but big fans. But do me a favor, Mike, if you don't mind. Just take me for a quick rip through your background, like how you got into the business when you left South Bend in the class of 1990, up until what you're doing with Cetera right now. I think it'd be sort of a great way to just kind of kick things off.
Happy to do it. I'll do it quickly. I graduated in 1990, as you said. I came out with a finance and economics degree. Out of what today would be Mendoza. It was not at the time, but came out with a finance and economics degree. I went straight into investment banking and as an analyst in New York City, working at the time for Dean Witter Reynolds in their corporate finance department. That became Morgan Stanley Dean Witter. I ended up spending 18 years at Morgan Stanley starting at Dean Witter. Ended up staying there 18 years. And the second 9 years of that 18, I was directly in Morgan Stanley's wealth management business in different capacities. I left Morgan Stanley Wealth Management in late 2008 and early 2009. I went to Fidelity Investments, moved from New York up to Boston. I joined Fidelity to run their RIA custody business. stayed at Fidelity for 14 years, doing a number of different things over time there, but all in and around what Fidelity calls the Fidelity institutional business. So facing off against intermediary clients of Fidelity. Terrific run there. And then moved over as CEO of Cetera Financial in May of 2023. Really just sort of voting with my feet around the excitement and opportunity that I saw in a rapidly changing wealth management industry. And really was quite excited to sort of, in many regards, get back on the same side of the table with wealth managers like I was at Morgan Stanley or at Fidelity. Incredible firm, incredible experience, but I was a service provider into intermediary and advisor firms. My view was the disruption, the excitement, the growth is going to come from the practitioners and the ways that models are evolving. So was just attracted to the opportunity at Cetera.
Well, it's incredible firms that have kind of comprise your resume, but I think we should give a quick shout out to Phil Purcell. Phil Purcell, for those of you who don't know, was the CEO of Dean Witter when they bought Morgan Stanley, and was an absolute visionary in the wealth management industry. And frankly, I was at Morgan Stanley when Dean Witter bought them. People kind of think about the history a little bit in reverse. It was not Morgan Stanley that bought Dean Witter. The name of the firm for a little while was Morgan Stanley Dean Witter. And Phil Purcell left the firm. John Mack, who was president when the merger took place, came back. And on his way out, Phil Purcell made a proclamation basically that the wealth management business was what was going to drive revenue, consistency of cash flow, and elevate these companies, these bulge-bracket investment banks, to another echelon of success. 100% true. So Phil was an incredible visionary, obviously a domer himself. So shout out to Phil Purcell, and thank you for your incredible insight. Quick question on your baseball allegiances. So you left New York to go to Boston. I didn't ask you where your hometown was, but are you Yankee?
I was born and raised in Columbus, Ohio, so I was raised a Cincinnati Reds Big Red Machine. Because I'm that old. George Foster and Ken Griffey and Johnny Bench and these guys. But you can't live in Boston for more than 2 years and not find the bandwagon of all Boston sports accommodating.
Yeah, I think it is pretty broad and it's pretty attractive for sure. And I mean, they kind of wrote the book on the parade, and they've had plenty of practice of throwing them for sure downtown. What do they call those amphibious vehicles that go
duck
into
boats?
the river?
Come on,
duck
man,
boats.
duck
Sorry,
boats.
Duck boats. Thank you. So
when the Celtics win the NBA this year, I'll invite you out for a duck boat parade.
Yeah, I could see that for sure. I love. Well, and I believe Brad Stevens has a son who's a basketball player at the University of Notre Dame.
Oh, did not know that.
Walk-on freshman or sophomore.
Did not know that.
Shout out to Brad. Love the Irish. So I watched a great interview a couple years ago, Mike, on Bloomberg, and Emily Chang sat down with Jamie Dimon, CEO of JP Morgan, of course. And she said, walk me through a day in the life of Jamie Dimon. What's your routine? When do you get up? Where do you work out? Like, you obviously take very good care of yourself. I think it'd be kind of fun, instructive, and aspirational. Walk me through a day in the life of Mike Durbin. What are your traffic patterns?
Oh, my goodness. It's hard to keep a pattern. We're a big growing company with a lot of oars in the water at any given time, so I'm on the road a lot. But I do try to bring a little bit of consistency, at least to the start of the day. I mean, I do try to be an early to bed, early to rise. So I'm an early riser. When I'm home, my wife and I are early risers. And those first 60 to 90 minutes, it generally is just sort of getting prepared. It's reading the right Wall Street Journal and Financial Times. It's, working through the inbox. It's understanding the calendar. It's ensuring that I've fully read and understand sort of the content of the day or next couple of days that are ahead of me. Many that have worked with me understand a little bit of a pet peeve of mine is to walk into a meeting where materials have been, distributed well in advance, and not everyone's up to speed. That's not a great use of time. So I ensure that I just use the time to be prepared for the day ahead. There's no doubt about it.
Fantastic.
Not a lot of exotic stuff in there, Doug.
Well, and I know you've got about, what I read, 12,000 advisors in the Cetera network on multiple platforms. Like, how many weeks of the year or days of the month are you typically on the road?
I mean, I'm roughly, it's not quite this tight, but I'm roughly a third at my primary home in Boston, in and out of Boston, a third on the West Coast. The company's headquartered in San Diego, and a third is on the road. Wow. That can ebb and flow. If it's the San Diego and Boston might get shrunken seasonally, and I'm on the road a lot.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, but it's good.
Well, you guys are growing, obviously.
We're
Anyone
growing.
who pays attention to the industry literature knows, Cetera's been super progressive and aggressive, and that's awesome. So congrats on the success you've had, and almost your 3-year
Team's
anniversary.
working hard. Yeah,
That's right.
In
That's
May.
awesome.
May will be 3 years.
So I recently watched a podcast, Mike, called Advisor Talk with Frank LaRosa. And great podcast. And you made a really, I thought, impactful comment. You said, there's never been a better time to be in the wealth management business, but the business is really changing. So it prompted 2 questions. First question is, are you comfortable doing podcasts as a guest with anything other than Italian hosts?
No.
Good. Okay.
I'm exclusive.
Well, it is St. Joseph Day, so thank you.
Hey, there you go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Amen.
The second question is, of the change or changes you were referring to, like what are the 1 or 2 biggest ones that you had in mind when you made that statement?
It's a good question. I mean, if I had to highlight 2 changes that are clearly, I would submit, inextricably linked. One is, which sounds a little bit of a glass half empty, but I don't mean it that way. But one is, I think that the information advantage that the industry practitioners have had over the end clients they serve, I think is, if it's not already over, it's going to be over soon. I mean, the underlying consumer base is smarter and smarter all the time. And certainly I think that intelligence gathering is going a bit parabolic because of AI. I mean, it's easy to sort of understand. I'm trying to run my personal finances as a co-head of household. I can go to an AI and learn a lot.
You bet.
Doesn't mean it's going to be a solution, but I can learn a lot. So if as a practitioner, no longer is a client going to come in and say, I don't understand X, Y, and Z, what does it mean? Or how should I access A, B, or C? They're still going to need the services of the human advisor, but it's not going to be on the basis of answer a question that I can't answer myself. It's going to be more around, am I okay? What else should I be considering?
Right.
Is this accurate, what I found on GPT-5? I mean, that kind of line of questioning. So I do think the loss of this information advantage over the end consumer, I would submit, is going to be a catalyst for productive change, but it is going to be change.
Okay.
And it's going to bring a change to the industry. It's already changing.
Mm-hmm.
The second, which I think is related, is just a greater and greater expectation from consumers that their provider is going to give them a highly personalized solution. I think the premium being paid for personalization is just going to get higher and higher. And the good news is that the tooling of this industry is going to make it easier for you and your associates and your firm to be able to provide an increasingly personalized solution. But you have to be able to approach the relationship in that way, construct those solutions in that way, communicate it that way. I think it's another clear trend of what's changing in the industry.
No doubt. And so when you think about Cetera's like competitive positioning, right? We said the size and the multiple platforms, which is generally speaking, when in a hyper nuanced, hyper fragmented, maybe becoming less so in industry, like what is setting the edge on their value proposition? Like how are you equipping these 12,000 advisors to, and maybe it goes back to, look, really embrace the EQ, try to be anticipatory of the questions. The IQ can be outsourced to the AI. And like that way you can cover more bandwidth and be a little bit more proactive in trying to be a problem solver.
Yeah, you got it. You just largely answered your own question there, which is terrific. That is exactly what we're trying to do. But the sort of, within that good line of questioning, I mean, look, we're trying to distinguish ourselves, and it's how that drives our allocation of capital and human capital. We're trying to differentiate ourselves on 2 dimensions, which I think is reflective of what you're asking. One is because we now have a level of scale through the years of growth that the firm's been able to achieve, we are supporting a widening range of affiliation models, business models that we can support on our platform. And why is that important? It's important because our platform does not pick winners and losers. We only work with fee-only RIAs, or we only work with independent contractor, hybrid. We have this expanding range of affiliation models because most practices don't stay the same over a 40-year career. They evolve. So that ability to sort of evolve, adapt, offer optionality up to and including succession solutions, we think that's a key part of our value prop. We like to say we're a forever home. You can come to Cetera, you can grow, you can change your business model, you can sell to us even eventually, or to one of our other practices on the platform. That's one distinguishing factor. The second, because you highlighted it here a couple times, we are approaching 12,000 advisors. We're a large large company. But size alone doesn't provide scale. So we're taking our size, we're converting that to a scale advantage, but we go to market with those 12,000 advisors across 5 different channels and multiple dedicated communities within the channels. Now, you might be like, what the heck does that mean? Why does it matter? Effectively, what it means is it's how we make the big feel small. So if we're going to recruit an advisor or team to the firm or acquire a team or practice into the firm, we will make sure it's aligned with whatever community has the highest affinity to how you go about your business.
Right.
So
right,
we put
I get that. Yeah.
tax-centric advisors within our tax-centric, community. We put, a firm that may have a little bit more of an insurance bias with other advisors that came out of an insurance captive distribution. We put prospective recruits in that community if that's sort of an affinity cohort for them. And we're really finding that to be comforting, successful, productive for us. We can do that to sort of differentiate. You're not coming here as the 12,001st advisor. You're coming here maybe as the 251st advisor in the community of advisors just like you.
Yeah.
And we're meeting with, really good success there in the market.
I mean, that's a pretty innovative structure, right? From what I've read and seen in the industry. And it's almost like neighborhooding, to your point, where it also speaks to kind of diversity of backgrounds of people that are going into the industry, right?
Yeah.
We used to say for a long time, like, who's your competition? Who do you see the most? We see everybody. I mean, it used to be, you just see the bigger firms that were kind of competing in specific areas, particularly where I live in Chicago, moved to a smaller town like Kansas City. It's much more fragmented. There's a lot more RIAs. Now you have the mega RIAs. Well, that's not only people we compete with. We compete with accountants who now have wealth management branches.
You got it.
We compete with attorneys that have family office branches. So It is interesting that this predisposition in sort of the bias and in the enthusiasm that different individuals have can find a home at Cetera that really allows them to have that fulfillment without thinking they need to completely revolutionize their background or their training.
Well said.
That's really cool, actually. Yeah, I love that concept. So, Mike, you were kind enough to be on a panel at the inaugural Notre Dame Wealth Management Symposium last November. So thank you.
Oh, it was outstanding.
I'd be remiss also if I didn't thank Cetera for being an awesome sponsor. So shout out to Mother Cetera for that generosity. And similar to what we're talking about with the incorporation of the trend being the AI and the changes that are taking place. We had this awesome panel, right, that focused on AI wealth tech in the industry. And you and I have always been in service businesses our entire career. So we know that we're ripe for disintermediation. And I thought one of the really encouraging comments from that tech panel on that day was, fear not, advisors. You're not going to be scared for your job, but there's going to be a dividing line between really prosperous advisors and potentially those that are just surviving. And that's going to be, as I mentioned, about managing newly found bandwidth. But at the same time, when you think about digital workforces and things like that are evolving so rapidly, with this narrative that we need 70,000 new advisors tomorrow to meet the aging out of the population. Do we need 70, or do we need 35,000 because we're going to get the output doubled with the incorporation of this technological system?
It's a very good question. I mean, to exaggerate it a little bit, but to try to be brief. In theory, I agree with what you're articulating. We don't need another single net new advisor, because I do think the automation, the scale effect that is coming, really good productive advisors who embrace, the sort of scale that is coming through things like AI. If you say today, I can only handle 100 families, well, if you embrace the right way, you can handle 300, 400, 500. The role you play within that relationship will change over time. But you should be able to adopt the efficiencies that are already here on a scale basis and be able to take on additional families. So in theory, for the demand base, it seems to always be growing. More and more households want to get the services of a really good human advisor. There aren't enough advisors. I do think the automation can solve that. But to the extent that we stay fixed at whatever it is, 350,000 advisors in this country, whatever the number seems to be stuck at, it's around that number. It does need to get younger. So, the average age of an advisor today is just about 8 years older than 8 years ago, right? So we are bringing young people into the profession, but probably not at a fast enough rate to satisfy the retirement or succession, trade at the other end,
Right.
for advisors that are getting a little bit older and are ready to sort of throttle back. So I'm not one of these guys that thinks we need 500, 600, 700,000 advisors, but we do need to, over time, the age demographic is going to have to settle in.
Well, and it's funny, the age demographic is so important because of this coming generational wealth transfer, which we all have read a million things about. Whether it's going to start in 10 years or 20 years, doesn't matter. Whether it's 120 trillion or 94 trillion, doesn't matter. There's going to be a ton of money in the hands of very young people. And the studies would say these very young people who are inheriting this dough are much more comfortable with a single point of contact doing more things.
You got it.
So do you feel like the modeling that Cetera has done is going to say we can do all of those? We can do whatever the 5 most important are: tax, legal work, financial planning, investment management, and then
retirement planning.
Yeah. Or do you say, oh, even better, because now I have the bandwidth to handle 300 relationships. If I then segment and say, well, no, you're getting to handle 150, but you're going to do these 5 things, not these 2 things. Like, I think the challenge is on corporate structure to meet those expectations, if they are in fact true, right? I think the expectation of that generation that they're going to only want to like evolve into singularity and deal as computers and want to be having avatars talk to one another, that's probably overly aggressive as it relates to the futuristic standpoint.
Agree.
But I mean, any thoughts on like meeting the challenges technologically of that next generation?
Well, you raised a couple of really good things in there. So one, go in reverse order. I completely agree. This notion of it's an avatar and that's going to replace the human. I mean, I do think that is a long way off at best because, and by the way, even as that continues to get better and better and better, I still think there is a market for the consumer to go to the human advisor and at a minimum say, do you agree?
Right.
What else should I consider? Are there other trade-offs? Like, can you do that in a prompt? Of course you can, but I do think that there is going to be value applied because look, at this stage, I don't fully trust what I get on the back of my AI prompting.
Right.
And I don't think I'm seeing, rampant hallucination, but it isn't always 100% accurate.
Right.
So it's building this market for, hey, I went and got a bunch of good answers to my good question prompting,
right.
But is this right? Do you agree with it? So I do think there is going to be sort of that space, if you will. I mean, one thing you touched on, we read all the same research that particularly the younger demographic is open to procuring more and more of their services through a single provider. My own opinion is that will fracture over time as they get wealthier and more complicated.
Okay.
And maybe there'll be a little bit more consolidation than what maybe you or I have today,
right.
working with multiple providers, but I don't see it collapsing to a single underlying provider. But I do think there is this market for a single AI-enabled quarterback of all
right.
that. And so I think that the future role of the advisor is going to be interesting, that advisor can have a really influential sort of ability or view around assets that are held maybe at a direct competitor or at this bank
right.
down the street, you know, because it won't be that hard to bring consolidated views together and to be able to sort of facilitate good trade-off, discussions.
Oh, without question. that is taking place. Yeah,
so that role of the advisor, the human advisor as reinforcer, but also just sort of coach, you know, I think it's just going to be really, really important.
It's fascinating. I read something a couple weeks ago, it was in the Wall Street Journal, and it said the number one use of AI today, the number one reason people use AI, what would you guess the answer is? And again, I don't know the source of the research, but this was consensus. This is what it's used mostly for.
I mean, I think it's going to be more entertaining in my answer. I would say it's just a modified search. I mean, people are just using it as search in place of Google.
So the answer was companionship.
Oh my God.
Okay, so now think about this. So I did a live experiment. So it is March 29th. I'm not sure when this will actually go live or be distributed. But the market is in the midst of about a 6, 7, 8% drawdown, depending upon which index you're looking at. Volatility is spiked. Oil is between $100 and $120 a barrel. So there's a lot of consternation in price dislocation in the market. So I used a couple different AI prompts, and I said, how should I be reacting? I'm 54 years old. This is what I have invested in the market, blah, 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 blah. Here's my long-term goals. Please give me your advice on what I should be doing if I were managing my own money.
It clearly said start a podcast, but keep going.
So we're here, and I got a new companion, so it's even better. So in that fun, so the answer was in understandably like non-qualified, though there was more questions than it was, which makes sense. But then if that becomes your companion, so here's the takeaway: be proactive. Like, here's the beauty that young people can have and older people in the business. Don't ever lose sight of the fact that the human touch, the EQ, is going to be the central focus on what continues to allow you to be successful in the industry.
For sure.
But it's a fun experiment to actually
For
do.
sure. I mean, look, my wife and I, I'm sure we all do now, have live fire experience ourselves, where we're very well served by our advisor. But the last several meetings is I am forearmed very differently because of the work that I'm doing in advance. But it doesn't mean we put any less value on the interaction or the advice.
Right.
We just come pre-informed in a very different way. And so we're looking for affirmation, trade-off, veracity, like, oh, be careful on that. I'm not sure your advisor, agree with what that's telling you. But but we find that just as valuable.
That's fascinating. Yeah.
But it's different.
Agree. It is. Very much. Very much. All right. So I'm totally switching gears on you now. Okay.
Uh-oh.
So going back to the aforementioned Lou Holtz, who we know, look, Irish Nation lost a luminary 2 weeks ago in Coach's passing. If you didn't see any of the footage, clips, videos, or photos of his funeral this week, it was incredibly touching, so impactful.
The weather was perfect, wasn't it, for the moment?
Well, I talked to Sean Wooden, who's a pal, who's also be involved in this Wealth Symposium, who played for a coach. And he said all the players said this was his instruction to the Lord. Make it a prototypical South Bend winter day. Let's just see how much my players love me. Will they follow me outside on the street to take my final resting place to Cedar Grove? I think affirmative, Coach. They passed the test for sure.
For sure.
So I'm going to share with you 5 of my favorite Lou Holtz quotes, Mike, and I'll tell you why after I read them to you. So number 1, don't ever promise more than you can deliver, but always deliver more than you promise. Number 2, without self-discipline, success is impossible, period. You may not be able to outthink, outmarket, or outspend your competition, but you can always outwork them. Number 4, life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you respond to it. And finally, it's not the load that breaks you, it's how you carry it. So which of those quotes would you say you most embrace and you feel would best serve the team at Cetera as you lead them onto the wealth management gridiron?
I appreciate you flagging all of those. I'm familiar with the last 2. I wasn't familiar with the prior 3, I think, but the one that resonates for me was the first one around make promises, exceed them, don't overpromise. I mean, look, we're in the B to B to C marketplace at Cetera Financial, or like I was at Fidelity or Morgan Stanley, quite honestly, and having nearly 12,000 growth-oriented advisors that are building their practices. Expectations for what we get done are high, and so I put a very strong premium on if we're going to say that we're going to do something for the 11,000 plus advisors that are on our platform, or the next 1,000 we're trying to recruit. We better deliver, if not exceed, on those promises. So that one clearly resonates.
Yeah, it's a great quote. He was so full of them, and,
oh my gosh,
he will be long missed and forever remembered.
Delivery mattered. With that benevolent lisp, nobody could pull off quotes like that, like Coach Holtz.
I agree.
It hit harder because of the way it was delivered.
No question. No question. So in along those same lines, I'm going to share one of my favorite business quotes, not made by Coach Holtz, but by George Schultz, who just only a couple years ago passed away, former chief of staff of Ronald Reagan, former dean of the University of Chicago. And someone had commented to him when looking at how scheduled he was every day. And they said, how can you possibly be effective? And I love this quote. And he said, it's actually very simple. He said, every day I only do what only I can do. So what can only Mike Durbin do as he can do it for Cetera?
It's a good question. I don't know if I can only do it. I mean, I will say, what dominates my everyday or dominates, my role is I'm in the allocation business. Allocation is my responsibility. We're allocating earnings, our operating expenses. We're allocating capital. We're allocating human capital. We're allocating trade-off and prioritization decisions every day. And, I think that's in a role where the buck tends to stop, I think that's my principal responsibility. I'd like to say, hey, I'm responsible for out there and win business, and I love doing it. But at the end of the day, I think that the team and our ownership group, they expect me to be responsible for making really good trade-off decisions and allocating precious capital, whether that's human, financial, or otherwise.
Right. Yeah. I love
That's what I do.
Good currency. Yeah. I'm sure you're a good steward. That's awesome. All right. So I'm going to flip. We're going to go back, switching gears again, going back to the Wealth Management Symposium. And one of the goals of that entire undertaking was improving student outcomes in their pursuit of employment in the wealth management industry. And would you give me, Mike, just your top 2, 3, 4, whatever pieces of advice you would give to a young student who wants to pursue a career in our business?
It's a good question. I mean, to me, it's I would just highlight 2 things. Is as a young person, maybe an undergrad student considering this profession, don't underestimate, you've already hit it, how valuable these sort of soft skills, EQ, skill set is to the profession. So, the premium that will increasingly be paid for, you can communicate, whether, verbally or on a written basis. You can think, you can reason, you can research, right? You can coach, you can influence, you can negotiate. I mean, these skills are going to be absolute table stakes quickly.
Right.
And that would not typically be how you would describe a summa cum laude finance major who wants to get into this profession, where you can also be very successul doing that also. But I do think that these sort of softer skills will sort of rise to the top. Okay. There's no doubt about that. The second I would just give 2 would be, I do think the most successful in the profession have embraced the team orientation.
Love that.
This idea of whether you have your own direct team or you create these sort of virtual teams, like you said previously, because maybe you have to rent the expertise of a trust and estate attorney or a CPA. But the fact that, you have to be able to function in a team setting so that you contribute as a team member, but your ability to learn and be mentored as a member of a team. That currency goes in both directions for sure. So
I believe that. And I did a bunch of mentoring to some of the student athletes over the course of the last year and a half on campus. And so much of what they experience daily lends itself to our industry.
For sure.
Dealing with the diversity, understanding accountability, timeliness, all that type of thing. And going back to Coach Holtz,
goal setting, goal exceeding.
Yes, 100%.
Repeatable processes.
Absolutely. So, and again, maybe this is sort of a same question asked a little bit differently. So if it is, just say we cover that, we'll move on. But if you've done a lot of mentoring over the years to young people, and if you could you extract like common threads of success and reverse engineer it and say, okay, what we know now based on our outlook for the industry is you've got to embrace this EQ. But are there certain things, and maybe it is just 90% of life is showing up. Maybe it's just work your tail off. But if you could reverse engineer the people you've seen go on and thrive in the business that you've mentored, anything jump out?
So you clearly have to work your tail off, but I would qualify that a little bit. It helps to be hungry. Those that I see most successful, there is an attraction to the endorphin of it's a win. And the win can be not just, I won a new client and lots of assets, but I helped the family do X, Y, or Z.
Right.
Or I helped them through a tough period. I mean, so that notion of be hungry for the outcome, I think absolutely helps. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, it's one of the reasons that just the whole comprehensive financial planning component of the business, my background is fully in investments, right? And so when I started this firm, we had a really cool computer system that no one knew how to use. And we hired a CFP, Tom Bowling, who's been part of our team forever. And in all my years of talking to clients about their investment portfolio, bonds, stocks, asset allocations, a pretty pie chart, never once has it elicited tears. You sit down with someone and go through like these thresholds of their economic life cycle.
Yeah, you got
They're retiring, they're inheriting money, they're selling a business. Like, it's a very emotional.
You got it.
Just a spoiler alert: people tend to have a very emotional relationship with their money.
For sure.
And so when you're able to frame that from the standpoint of this adrenaline, this endorphin, this accomplishment, it's just such a win across the table that it builds loyalty, but it marries you to the affection of the industry even more.
So during my years at Fidelity, during that tenure, Fidelity purchased eMoney Advisor, the financial planning software company,
which we use eMoney.
It's heavy adoption of eMoney. That team's done a terrific job, market share, et cetera. But for me, it sort of had this front row seat on how the conversation between an advisor and client, how dramatically different it is for those eMoney power users, a value proposition practice built around planning. The questioning from the client started with, how am I doing? It's not what are you doing
Right.
in my portfolio, or what's my performance, or
Right.
what's my underperformance, or alpha, beta, whatever. It's am I okay? How am I doing?
Yes.
And that's because the whole plan in place between practitioner and consumer was rooted on understanding my goals, modeling the Monte Carlo
Absolutely.
simulations, look at the likelihood that you're going to be okay.
Right.
So when markets go up, down, or sideways, the first question was, are we still okay?
Yeah.
How am I doing?
Absolutely.
And that to me is like, okay, I believe that is the most durable part of this relationship that's going to evolve through automation and technology between advisor and customer. They still want to know if they're okay.
100%. We always say that the plan creates context, and within context lie opportunities to optimize outcomes. But if you don't have context, it's very arbitrary. So you're 100%. So okay, so we've come now to the segment of the show that we know is the lightning round. Okay, so what I'm going to do, Mike, I'm going to say 2 words or phrases that are going to be presented as an either or, and I want you to pick the one with which you most clearly align. This will give our listeners some really good insight into the way you think and your personality, but I need to assure everyone that no medical or psychological professional would ever sign off, if they had actual credentials, on any relevancy that's going to come from this exercise. But I think it could be fun. So if you're ready,
should I lie down, or is it?
No, you're good.
Okay.
Unless you think it's going to prompt the most genuine answer to get this constructive or non-constructive feedback. So when you're ready, just let me know.
Let's go.
Okay. North Dining Hall or South Dining Hall?
Oh, North.
La Fortune or Duncan?
La Fortune.
Independent or conference?
Independent, for sure. It took me a second to catch up.
Okay, yeah, that's all right.
I'm not very quick.
Independent or Wirehouse?
Independence.
Linebacker or quarterback?
Quarterback.
Linebacker or senior bar?
Linebacker.
Crypto or gold?
Crypto.
Blue or gold?
Indifferent.
Wow. Cheers or Friends?
Cheers.
Cheers or Seinfeld?
Seinfeld.
Interesting. So, Mike, I think what we can determine
What does
is
that
you
mean?
are a throwback. You're a dyed-in-the-wool domer, a dedicated-ish New Yorker who has a nutrient-rich diet, who embraces moderation and does not chase shiny new investment objects.
There you go.
How's that?
That's pretty good.
It's interesting that Cheers
That had an addiction to the chicken patties in North Dining Hall,
Yes,
in
once a week.
the late 80s. So
salad bar
I
6
may or
days a
may
week.
not have
and
had my
chicken patties
pockets
one
full
day.
of chicken sandwiches when I was walking out of North Dining Hall.
Well, from what I understand, it's going to look a lot. South Dining Hall is going to look a lot more like North Dining Hall with some of
is
the
that right?
renovations that are on their way.
Interesting.
Much to the chagrin of a lot of the South Quad residents.
Yeah.
Where did you live on campus?
Keenan.
Okay, it's right
yeah,
there.
Yeah, Keenan.
And this is going to wrap it up with this final section, which we refer to on this program as the final.
This is your first podcast. What does this refer like?
So when people look back, they're going to think that it's
Yeah, exactly. Sorry about
that. So episode 1.1. Final. 2 quick questions. What is the business book you would recommend right now? Doesn't have to be new. What
that's a
business
good
book would you
question.
recommend right now?
Well, I've said this a couple of times in the past, so I'm going to say it again because it's now a little old, but I think it's aging well. I believe it's called A World Without Work by Daniel Susskind, and it's probably 2022. Copyright, but it is sort of historical context and a little bit of prognostication of an AI impacted workforce, which I found at the time I read it quite informative. Turns out it's a little bit prescient on how things seem to be unfolding, but there is some cause for optimism through it as well. It's a good one.
Yeah. Have you read Unreasonable Hospitality?
I have. That's a good one.
Oh, so good. Will Goudart.
Wait, should I have said that? Are you?
No. We're done with the psychoanalysis.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Exactly.
And then, what is your prediction on the Irish football record this coming season?
That's a good question. I believe they'll run the table undefeated in the regular season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
And
that's
who knows with the playoff
forecast. Yeah. It's going to be a fun season. So it's an interesting schedule to start up at Lambeau Field, and 3 games in September, 1
Incredible.
October, 3 in a row in November. So, hey, Mike, this has been a blast. I
Been
can't thank you
fantastic.
enough for being here, for taking the time of your
Thank
schedule
you.
to actually come into my office.
Thank you for inviting me. It's a valued seat, so I really appreciate
Well,
it. And honestly, Doug, I mean, on behalf of all the alumni that are in our profession, and on behalf of all the students at the university, thank you for doing what
Oh
you're
my
doing.
gosh, it's been, like I said, it's been a lot of fun.
I know you got a lot of good feedback off this symposium. It's so, richly earned, richly deserved.
Well,
It's,
I can kind of say that.
you're having an impact. It's good.
Well, thank you so much for saying that. In November 18th to 19th, 2026, Symposium 2.0, we're going to run it back. And we'll see you all next month for episode 2 of Irish in the Industry. Until then, go Irish.